In the 1970s, radio and critics rarely agreed. A song could dominate the airwaves, played every hour, sung by millions, and still be dismissed as garbage. Critics mocked these records as shallow, commercial, or embarrassing, but radio didn't care. Neither did the audience. These songs weren't failures. They were too successful, and that made them targets. Here are 10 songs from the 1970s that critics hated, but radio loved. Number 10, YMCA, Village People. It was impossible to escape. By 1978, YMCA was everywhere. Radio, clubs, sporting events, television. It wasn't just a hit, it was a phenomenon. The chorus was simple, the beat unstoppable, and the dance moves turned listeners into participants. Radio embraced it instantly. Critics didn't. To music journalists, YMCA was everything wrong with disco. Too obvious, too repetitive, too playful to be taken seriously. They dismissed it as novelty music, a gimmick built on costumes, choreography, and a sing-along hook. The Village People themselves were treated as a joke: construction worker, cowboy soldier, leather biker. To rock purists, it looked like a cartoon parody of music culture. What critics missed was the craftsmanship. YMCA was tightly produced, perfectly structured for dance floors and radio rotation. Its infectious energy was no accident. And beneath the surface, the song carried meanings many critics ignored or didn't want to acknowledge. It became an anthem embraced by communities disco had always belonged to. Communities that rock culture often excluded. Radio didn't hesitate. It played YMCA endlessly. The song topped charts, sold millions, and outlived nearly every critical complaint thrown at it. While critics laughed, the audience memorized every word. YMCA didn't survive the backlash, it conquered it. Number 9, More Than a Feeling, Boston. By the late 1970s, radio couldn't stop playing it. More Than a Feeling wasn't just a hit, it was inescapable. From the moment that acoustic intro faded into towering harmonies, the song sounded massive, engineered to feel timeless. Radio programmers loved it, listeners memorized it, stations played it relentlessly. Critics were exhausted. To many music journalists, More Than a Feeling felt too perfect, too clean, too carefully constructed. There was no chaos, no grit, no sense of danger. Everything sat exactly where it should. That precision became the accusation. Boston were accused of sounding artificial, less like a band and more like a product. The song's massive success only made the backlash worse. When something dominates the airwaves long enough, critics stop hearing the craft and start hearing saturation. Tom Scholz's meticulous approach didn't help. Layered guitars, controlled dynamics, studio perfection bordering on obsession. In an era where punk rock was rising and rawness was becoming a virtue, More Than a Feeling sounded like the enemy. Too polished for rebellion, too smooth for credibility. Yet radio didn't let go. The song tested endlessly well. Audiences never tired of it. Stations kept spinning it because listeners kept responding. Critics called it corporate rock. Radio called it a classic. Decades later, the verdict is impossible to ignore. The song didn't fade. The criticism did. More Than a Feeling outlived the moment that tried to dismiss it, proving that perfection, however unfashionable, can still endure. Number 8, Silly Love Songs, Wings. By the mid-1970s, critics had a favorite complaint. Paul McCartney wrote too many love songs. They called them lightweight, unserious, a waste of talent. McCartney heard every word. And instead of retreating, he responded directly. Silly Love Songs wasn't an apology, it was a challenge. The groove was smooth, the bass line was irresistible, the chorus unapologetically joyful. Radio loved it immediately. The song climbed charts worldwide and became one of Wing's biggest hits. Critics weren't amused. To them, Silly Love Songs was proof that McCartney had abandoned depth for commercial comfort, a former Beatle, reduced to writing feel-good pop for mass consumption. What they ignored was the intent. The song was self-aware. Its lyrics openly mocked the criticism aimed at him. "Some people want to fill the world with silly love songs," he sang, as if daring critics to argue back. Musically, it was anything but lazy. The arrangement was tight, the rhythm section precise, the melody effortless in the way only carefully crafted music can be. But nuance didn't matter. In a decade that increasingly valued edge, irony, and seriousness, joy itself became suspicious. Radio didn't care about that debate. Listeners didn't either. They turned the volume up. Silly love songs became proof of a recurring truth in the 1970s. Critics often mistook sincerity for simplicity. The song didn't just survive the backlash, it exposed it. Number 7, Afternoon Delight. Starland Vocal Band. At first it sounded harmless. Soft harmonies, gentle groove, a title that felt almost innocent. Radio embraced Afternoon Delight instantly. By 1976, it was a #1 hit, played everywhere. Sung along to by families, teenagers, and casual listeners alike, critics reacted very differently. To them, the song was unbearably corny, overly sweet, embarrassingly wholesome. Then people started paying attention to the lyrics. The meaning wasn't subtle, it wasn't abstract, it wasn't poetic. Once it clicked, the backlash intensified. Music journalists mocked the song relentlessly. They dismissed it as one of the most clumsy attempts at sensuality ever to reach the charts. What made it worse was the contrast. Starland Vocal Band looked clean-cut and polite. They smiled constantly. They didn't fit the image of provocation or danger. That disconnect turned Afternoon Delight into a punchline. Critics treated it as proof that mainstream radio had lost all taste, that pop music had sunk into accidental self-parody. And yet, radio didn't stop playing it. Listeners kept requesting it. Stations kept spinning it. The song tested incredibly well despite the ridicule. Its success exposed something uncomfortable. Critics judged the song based on embarrassment. The audience judged it based on melody and familiarity. Afternoon Delight wasn't loved because it was daring. It was loved because it was easy to sing, easy to remember, and impossible to avoid. The mockery stuck for decades, but the song never disappeared. It became a cultural reference point. Not because critics respected it, but because radio made it unforgettable. Number 6, Escape, the Pina Colada song. Rupert Holmes. It sounded like a joke, a laid-back groove, a breezy melody, lyrics about personal ads, boredom, and escaping a relationship over cocktails. Radio loved it immediately. By 1979, Escape was unavoidable. It climbed to #1. Stations played it non-stop. Listeners hummed along without thinking twice. Critics were less forgiving. To them, the song felt lightweight, a novelty record dressed up as storytelling, clever in concept but disposable in substance. Music journalists mocked its relaxed tone and conversational lyrics. The story felt too cute, too tidy, too smug. And then there was the ending. The twist, where both partners realized they were secretly looking for each other, was ridiculed as sitcom logic. Neat, convenient, emotionally shallow. Critics argued it reduced adult relationships to punchlines. But radio didn't care. Listeners connected with the narrative. The melody lingered. The chorus stuck. What critics dismissed as trivial, radio recognized as relatable. In a decade full of excess, Escape felt casual and human. No grand statements, no rebellion, just dissatisfaction, curiosity, and irony. That subtlety was its strength and its crime. To serious critics, it wasn't important enough. Not heavy, not ambitious, not dangerous. Yet it outperformed songs that tried much harder. Escape became proof that storytelling didn't need depth to connect. It needed clarity. Critics moved on. Radio never did. Number 5. Kung Fu Fighting, Carl Douglas. It wasn't supposed to be taken seriously. Kung Fu Fighting began as a B-side, a throwaway idea built around a trend. Then radio picked it up, and suddenly it was everywhere. By 1974, the song had exploded across the airwaves. It hit number 1 in multiple countries. DJs loved its instantly recognizable hook. Listeners couldn't stop singing along. Critics were horrified. To them, Kung Fu Fighting was novelty music at its worst, a gimmick record built on a cultural fad, shallow, disposable, embarrassing. The Kung Fu sound effects were mocked relentlessly. The lyrics were dismissed as cartoonish stereotypes. Music journalists treated the song as proof that radio had abandoned artistic standards. But radio didn't care about credibility. It cared about reaction. And Kung Fu Fighting got one immediately. The groove was tight, the rhythm infectious, the chorus impossible to forget. It didn't ask listeners to think. It asked them to move. While critics rolled their eyes, audiences embraced it as pure fun. Clubs played it, stations replayed it, the public kept requesting it. The song became a victim of its own success. Because it leaned into novelty, critics refused to acknowledge its musical craft. The tight funk rhythm, the clean production, the precise timing that made it work on radio. Once it was labeled a joke, the verdict was permanent. Kung Fu Fighting didn't fade away quietly, it lingered. Played at parties, referenced in films, revived endlessly in pop culture. Critics dismissed it. Radio immortalized it. And that was enough. Number 4. Seasons in the Sun, Terry Jacks.
We've known each other since we were 9 or 10.
Critics knew what this song was doing, and they hated it for that. Seasons in the Sun was built to make people cry. A slow tempo, a simple melody, lyrics about goodbye, memory, and death. Radio embraced it instantly. By 1974, the song had climbed to number 1 across multiple countries. It dominated airwaves. It played in cars, kitchens, and living rooms everywhere. Listeners connected to it immediately. Critics recoiled. To music journalists, Seasons in the Sun was emotional manipulation at its most obvious. They called it maudlin, over-sentimental, a song that confused sadness with depth.
You gave me love and helped me find this.
The lyrics were accused of being childish, the message too direct, the emotion too blunt. There was no metaphor to decode, no mystery to unravel. The song told you exactly what it wanted you to feel, and that honesty was unforgivable. Critics argued that true art should resist easy emotion, that it should challenge, not comfort. Seasons in the Sun did the opposite. It offered nostalgia, closure, a gentle farewell. Radio programmers didn't care about that debate.
You gave me love and helped me find this.
The song tested exceptionally well. Audiences requested it constantly. Stations played it because people listened. What critics dismissed as cheap sentiment, listeners experienced as sincerity. The song wasn't subtle, but it was effective. Decades later, Seasons in the Sun is still referenced as one of the most divisive hits of the decade, mocked by critics, embraced by radio, remembered by everyone. Number 3, You're So Vain, Carly Simon. From the first line, it sounded like a provocation. You're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. Radio latched onto it instantly. Released in 1972, You're So Vain shot to number 1 and stayed there. The melody was sharp, the chorus unforgettable, the attitude unmistakable. Listeners loved it. Critics were uneasy. To music journalists, the song felt like gossip set to music, a hit built on innuendo rather than substance. They accused it of being petty, vindictive, and tabloid-minded. Who was it about? That question dominated every conversation. Warren Beatty? Mick Jagger? Someone else entirely? The mystery fueled radio play, but irritated critics. They argued that the song encouraged celebrity obsession, that it reduced songwriting to personal score settling, that it thrived on speculation instead of artistry. What they ignored was the construction. The lyrics were tightly written, the phrasing precise, the hook devastatingly effective. Carly Simon wasn't ranting, she was controlling the narrative. The song flipped the power dynamic. The subject wasn't named. The audience filled in the blanks. Radio recognized what critics resisted. This wasn't cheap drama. It was smart provocation. You're So Vain didn't just succeed despite the controversy, it thrived on it. Critics debated its ethics. Radio celebrated its impact. And 50 years later, people still argue about who the song was really about. Long after most critical objections faded. Number 2. How Deep Is Your Love? Bee Gees.
The morning sun, I feel you touch me.
By the late 1970s, softness had become suspicious. When How Deep Is Your Love was released in 1977, radio embraced it immediately. Smooth melody, gentle groove, falsetto harmonies that felt intimate rather than explosive. Listeners loved it. Critics did not. To many rock journalists, the song was proof that the Bee Gees had gone too far, too soft, too romantic, too carefully polished. It arrived at the worst possible moment. Disco was exploding, and backlash was already brewing. Anything associated with disco was treated with hostility, and the Bee Gees were becoming its most visible symbol. Their falsetto vocals were mocked as weak, the emotional openness dismissed as lightweight. Critics accused the song of being safe background music, something designed for radio playlists, not serious listening. What they ignored was the craft. The chord progression was subtle, the arrangement restrained, the harmonies precise without being showy. How Deep Is Your Love wasn't chasing the dance floor. It was built for quiet moments, late nights, slow drives, private listening. Radio understood that immediately. Stations played it constantly because audiences didn't tune out, they leaned in. As disco backlash intensified, the criticism hardened. The Bee Gees were no longer judged song by song. They were judged as symbols. And How Deep Is Your Love paid the price. Critics treated its tenderness as weakness, its elegance as emptiness. Time proved otherwise. The song endured not because it was loud or fashionable, but because it was honest, controlled, and emotionally precise. Radio never stopped loving it. Critics eventually stopped arguing. Number 1, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Michael Jackson. In 1979, critics thought they knew what this song meant. They were wrong. When Don't Stop Till You Get Enough hit radio, it sounded like a declaration. A new voice, a new energy, a clean break from the past. Radio embraced it instantly. The groove was undeniable, the rhythm relentless. Michael Jackson's vocal, elastic, playful, and fearless, felt electric. It shot to number 1. Critics hesitated. To many rock journalists, the song felt like a betrayal. Too disco, too polished, too focused on rhythm instead of meaning. Michael Jackson had been a child star, a Motown prodigy, safe, familiar. Now he was dancing into a new world, and critics didn't trust it. They dismissed the song as overproduced dance music, a move designed for clubs and charts, not artistic credibility. What they failed to recognize was the shift happening in real time. This wasn't Michael chasing disco. This was Michael redefining pop. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough wasn't built for rebellion or irony. It was built for movement, for joy, for physical response. Radio understood before critics did. Stations played it endlessly because listeners reacted instantly. No explanation required, no approval needed. The song marked the moment Michael Jackson stepped fully into his adult voice. Creative control, confidence, vision. Critics would eventually catch up. They would rewrite the narrative, celebrate the innovation, acknowledge the influence. But in 1979, hesitation turned into misjudgment. Radio crowned it a classic immediately. Critics followed years later. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough didn't just survive skepticism. It exposed how slowly critics sometimes hear the future.